Welcome back, City Builders. Kodiak the Kodiak here, and I'm back with some chirp-worthy news about City Skylines II. In the latest developer diary titled Citizen Simulation and Lifepath, the game's intricate systems evolving around your citizen simulations come to life like never before. Using Chirper's new follow system, you'll be able to track your citizen's life from the time that they're born, to when they get divorced, to when they graduate from college, all the way until they see the pearly gates beyond. But that's not all. Brace yourself for an in-depth look at the brand new crime system, unraveling the complexities of maintaining law and order in your urban utopia. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any future updates on City Skylines 2. Don't forget to let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's dive into the intricate web of crime and citizen information in City Skylines 2. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to let you guys know that I have another video live on my channel currently right now that broke down the Cities in the Sky event from day one. So this is specifically day one of the Cities in the Sky event with Sips, Tubbo, and a bunch of other non-cities content creators that were able to play the game early. We also have the Cities content creator basically event that's going to be going on starting the 8th, where people are able to show their footage finally of City Skylines 2 or stream it if they're given early access. Now, I was not given early access, but I will be trying my best to break down some of that other content that those creators are making. On top of that, this dev diary today is actually full of stuff about citizens, which is super cool, and I expect it to kind of be the last big dev diary, I guess, until the end of the dev diaries. I don't expect the next two on sound and the cinematic camera to kind of give us that much stuff about the game, because they're both kind of like optional things at the end of the day, really. So I expect this one to kind of just be the last big one. So if you guys want to bear with me through it, might be your last chance to really kind of enjoy these dev diaries to their fullest extent. Also, the written portion of this diary, way more full than the video part. The video part is a little on the lighter side. Just to let you guys know, it's going to be a lot of me sitting and going, oh, we already know that. Oh, we already know that. And then when we get into the written portion, there's like a lot of more details about like how all of this works. So without further ado, let's get started.
You might think that city building is all about glass and steel, bricks and mortar, tarmac, smokestacks, and iron tracks. But it's also about joy and life.
I'm sorry, the way these citizens walk, please bear with me here.
Smokestacks and iron tracks. But it's also about joy.
They're like cowboys walking down the street ready to go to their duel.
Laughter, sadness,
Laughter,
tears,
yeah, I'm laughing, all right.
struggles, triumphs, even love. That's because city building is about people. While the behavior of your city citizens is rooted in deep simulation, they aren't guided by ones and zeros. They follow very real human impulses on their life path. A life path encompasses major events that shape their lives. It starts with being born in or moving to your city.
Ground texture is a little flat. I will say it's a little flat. Not that we're going to be like zoomed in super close to our city that often, unless you're playing like detailed, I guess, right? Like if you're a detail builder, then maybe you will eventually, right? Once the mods start coming out and you're able to actually do that. But from a normal perspective, I guess it wouldn't be that like noticeable. But I think we brought it up before that the ground texture is just very bland. Maybe something like a theme mixer mod for City Skylines 2 might fix.
Everything after that, from their first day of school to college graduation, their first big promotion to retirement, their nervous first date to tying the knot, is just another step on their life path. Most days will be uneventful. Citizens will follow a routine of attending school, working, and spending free time with friends and family. But like the rest of us, they'll have good days and bad. Citizens can...
Okay, so let me give me a little cough there. Right here, we have a citizen tab, and they have a condition. This is going to be called a condition, and we'll learn about this in the written portion of the dev diary. I just want to preface that these right here, so you have happiness, and then you have conditions next to them.
Fall ill, suffer accidents, lose their job and become homeless, commit crimes and face...
So we actually got to see right there, I didn't pause it in time, a description for homelessness in the game. And here we are. The citizen has no permanent residence in the city, and they will leave if they can't find a new home.
Commit crimes and face the consequences.
This is criminals basically going to the prison or the jail.
On the flip side, citizens reap the benefits when your city thrives. These happy citizens...
That's a really nice corner park. I wonder if this is just like a really small park asset, if it's connected to this, whatever this is over here, or if this is just part of the building lot.
The flip side, citizens reap the benefits when your city thrives. These happy citizens stay and contribute as they get older.
Just a lounging yard.
Until it's their time to line up at heaven's pearly gates. Happiness is something you can actually measure in City Skylines II.
So right here, this is the happiness infographic or info chart, info view. That's the word. I have no idea if we've seen this before, but essentially, happiness is broken down into measurable statistics for your city. So every citizen and your entire city itself is actually like rated on like a scale. So they like convert happiness to a physical number in City Skylines 2. Now in City Skylines 1, they kind of did that with just like the happiness, like just in general, but it wasn't as in depth where like each part of their day and existence equivalates to their happiness. So for example, we have wealth here, and that's providing a plus 17 happiness across the city of New Dollarton, right? And so we also have a plus 7 reliability of mail service, for plus 5 for fair taxes, plus 3 for abundance of entertainment. Spacious homes provide a plus 2. Abundance of leisure time provides a plus 1. Good education services provide plus 1. High noise pollution is subtracting 1, so offsetting one of these, and then the rest of them are positive with reliable healthcare coverage and reliable internet service, both providing plus 1 to overall citizen happiness. So the overall citizen happiness here in New Dollarton is stellar. It's out of the park.
It's a score that tallies an individual's health and well-being. You can track happiness on each citizen's information panel.
You can see they're
View
neutral,
the panel for their
and then this one's
household
happy.
to learn what's contributing or detracting.
Your average happiness of your household member. So this is all of the things that are equating to this citizen's overall happiness. Now, I have no idea how they convert each individual citizen's happiness to a metric that's larger, that encompasses the entire city. Didn't talk about that in detail, but we can kind of see like what is equating to their individual happiness. So we have spacious home and reliable mail service are this citizen, the Doe family. It doesn't say who this is though, but it does give us all the information. So unreliable healthcare coverage wherever they're living is subtracting their fair tax bonus that they're getting. The abundance of leisure time is getting reduced by the high noise pollution, but otherwise they're getting spacious home, reliable mail service, and the abundance of entertainment buff basically provided them to provide them happiness and make them happy. The average happiness of the average happiness of every household member, citizens' happiness, and combination of citizen health and well-being. Taking care of citizens' basic needs, healthcare increases their happiness, providing them with education, leisure opportunities, and safety increases their well-being. Happy citizens also work efficiently and thus increase companies' efficiency as well.
From their collective happiness. Get the basics right, and citizens will basically be happy. Ensure they have a reliable electricity supply, clean water, decent plumbing, and regular garbage collection. Minimize ground, air, and noise pollution. Keep a lid on crime so citizens feel safe. High-speed internet is pretty much a must-have, and so is a suitable home. Families need space, so they'll benefit from living in larger homes in low-density areas where kids can roam freely. Small apartments are best for singles and students who want low rents in busy areas where they can go out and socialize.
Okay.
Healthcare is non-negotiable. Without it, citizens can die from illness and injuries. Even with good sanitation and low pollution, citizens need medical facilities near enough to travel on their own steam or by ambulance for routine care. This is especially important for your city's elderly population, whose health won't always be tip-top. Seniors are actually in the last of the 4 life stages your citizens will experience.
And this part is very redundant.
They might even live in a multi-generational home.
Because as we know, there is 4 life stages: child, teen, adult, senior. They go over that in the dev diary too for like a decent part of it. I don't really know why I mean, I guess it is relevant to Citizen Lifepath and stuff like that, but they did touch on that pretty severely in other dev diaries. So we won't be touching on any of that in the written portion when we get to it. Let's go back and so we can hear what they're saying.
5 stages your citizens will experience. They might even live in a multi-generational home with citizens in the other life stages, including children, teens, and adults. And look out for 4-legged family members too.
I have some disappointing news about pets. They're purely cosmetic. I know. They put it in the written part of the diary when we get there, and I'll give you this little teaser to it, but they're purely cosmetic. But that doesn't mean that they're not leaving room for a pets DLC in the future, which would be very exciting, very cool, something I actually hope that they do for more pet-focused things, like dog parks, vets, giving your pets of your city a bit more control and influence over how it functions would be very cool.
Adults. And look out for four-legged family members, too. Keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening with your citizens by viewing their Lifepath journal.
This is super sick. I love that they have this now. So you click on the person over here in the bottom right, and it opens up your followed citizen. So when you click on a citizen, you can actually like them. So if we go back, I think if we go back over here, if we were to click on an individual citizen, you can see that there is a symbol here on the left, and it's a person with a plus button. And that allows you to make them a followed citizen. So you can track them essentially through their life cycle. And when you click over here, you can see all the citizens you've chosen to follow. So Nova Linus, Bjorn Blom, and Yvonne Gibbs. I probably butchered one of those names. But you can see here, and then
what's happening with your citizens by viewing their Lifepath journal.
Click on the followed citizen, and you can see that they're happy, they're idling, they're educated, employed, where they work, where they live, what their class is in society, right? They're wealthy. And then you can see all of their chirps as well, and when they were born. So they were born in March of 2027. So let's go back and look at what the time is.
On the pulse of what's
and
happening.
It is April of 2031. So they should, in theory, be 5 years old, I think. But it says they're an adult.
By viewing their Lifepath journal.
So we can kind of get a grasp of how fast citizens can age as well. They haven't touched on like how long a citizen's lifespan is, as far as I understand it. Maybe some people might know or have said. But as far as I know, we don't know the actual length of a citizen's life. And what I can grasp from this, if they were born in 2027, and this is 2031 down here, that's 4 years. And they're already an adult. So is their entire lifespan maybe only like 5 to 6 years? Something to keep in mind. But over here, we also have all their chirps that they're making and all the information. So moving in with Karen Mason. What a happy day.
It records everything that happens to them from the moment you click follow. It'll show you personal details, their happiness score, and their chirper feed.
So you can like their chirps. That's super cool. There's actually, I'm going to be honest with you guys, Chirper is actually back in a big way. I kind of made a clickbaity title in one of my earlier dev diaries where we were talking about Chirper and like kind of my thoughts on like what they could do for it. And it is just as great as I thought it was going to be. So Chirper is essentially going to be used as a way to keep tabs, obviously, on your city, just like you did in City Skylines 1, but to a more effective level because there's so much more micromanagement that you can actually get into in City Skylines 2 if you want to. And so when you click on Chirper, you will have your list of chirps, right? And if you look over here next to where we liked their chirp, you'll notice that there's a number next to it, and that's the number of other citizens that have liked that chirp. Well, the amount the higher or lower this number is determines how important other citizens think that issue is. So if somebody's chirping about sewage, and then another person's chirping about healthcare, and the one chirp about healthcare has way more likes than the one about sewage, you know that if you can only afford to prioritize one right now, you should probably prioritize the healthcare one because more people are actively being influenced by the negative of healthcare. So Chirper is actually going to be way more beneficial for those of us who are looking to get a little bit more into the nitty-gritty of our management.
Oh, and one more thing. Chirper is back. Expanded and better integrated, Chirper now gives citizens a voice.
Look at all that.
About what's going on in their
lives
and what's happening in the city. If their chirps get likes, you know just how important that topic is to them.
And you can see the number like go up after they chirp it.
When they chirp to complain about underperforming city services and applaud their excellent work.
Gosh,
when it
so
comes
cool.
to the health, well-being.
Let's go back and look at some of those chirps before we move on. They showed off so many of them.
Chirper is back.
It can't rain all the time. People in the city are not looking too good. Well-being, so many sick people. And you can see that there's 2 chirps about sickness and 1 person chirping about rain. And the sickness ones are getting a lot more likes as well. So you know that that is like an actual issue that a lot of people are suffering from.
Expanded and better integrated.
And then there was also one about noise, but okay, so many open jobs and so few workers, what gives? And that's a lot lower than this one about crime. And then this next one, we could really use some more residential buildings, and that one's significantly higher. So you can see that the citizens in your city are being negatively affected way more severely by the lack of residential than they are about the actual crime or about the not enough jobs.
Integrated. Chirper now gives citizens a...
So your water department here, water and sewage handling capacity is enough to handle our needs. So we're buying the required services capacity from our neighbors. So you're getting an alert that you're buying water, and that could be negatively affecting your budget, obviously.
Voice.
And there was even one from a business there. Let's see what that one was.
Integrated. Chirper now gives citizens a voice.
Bored at your old job or studying, come to work for us. So they're hiring, and so they're going to make a chirp about it. The city is incredibly noisy. I can barely hear myself think. So then that goes
if
up.
Their chirps get likes, you know just how important that
I don't know what the liking it does. I don't know if it like allows you to then track that issue or something. It would be cool if the liking actually had like a feature to it. I have no idea if you can, if liking matters, I guess.
Topic is to them and other citizens.
People are getting sick, noisy. People in the city are not looking good. So you got 2 about healthcare, but the noise has a lot more reaction to it.
This can be helpful when they chirp to complain about underperforming city services and applaud their excellent work. When it comes to the health, well-being, and happiness of your citizens, think quality, not quantity. By creating places, spaces, and experiences that enrich their lives, you'll discover what city building is all about.
Quality over quantity. That's what they're going to highlight there. So that's the video. And I know that the video portion of this, of my video, I guess, was a little bit on the lighter side. We basically only really covered 2 things in it. And that's just because there really wasn't a lot to talk about in the video portion. But that's because it's all in the written portion. So let's head on over there. Okay, and before we move on to the next section of the Dev Diary, I just want to thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. And about half of you make it to this halfway point in every single one of my videos. And over half of you are not subscribed. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. And if you like the video so far, please make sure to drop a like down below and check out some of my other social medias, like my website. I also use this time to thank any of my Discord and YouTube members. So I just want to give a huge shout out to J15, WineandRKP, and my other Discord member. These are paid subscribers in my Discord. You guys can also subscribe here on YouTube, and I will give you guys a verbal shout out depending on the tier that you select. You also get a ton of other cool benefits if you subscribe in the Discord as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks, guys. Let's head on to the written portion. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to remind you guys that I go through the Dev Diary, the written portions, and highlight everything. So we're only going to be covering over the stuff that I think is important, relevant, or new. So we're going to start off here where they are talking about citizens and their activities. So they also have rare activities such as committing crime, escaping crime scenes, which is basically the same thing, let's be honest, seeking medical treatment, and moving away. So there's basically 3: crime, medical treatment, and moving away. So those are considered rare activities that citizens can partake in. Citizens can own pets. This is what I explained earlier, but pet owners are chosen randomly from citizen pool. And while pets are purely cosmetic and do not affect citizen happiness or their consumption of resources, so pets don't even eat up their wealth, their consumption of resources, nothing. Garbage accumulation or noise pollution. So they're literally just there to walk around and just be awesome, right? They add a bit of flavor to your city, right? They do add visual depth to your city, which is nice. So now we'll go down to happiness. Citizen happiness is the overall value that represents a citizen's satisfaction in their life. It is the combination of well-being and health and affects the citizen's behavior and their ability to work. Okay, so let's go over well-being now. Well-being indicates citizens' mental state and sense of safety. Satisfying their basic needs, such as having reliable electricity and clean water, such as sufficient sewage treatment so their toilets don't overflow, will go a long way in building a solid base for their well-being. And as we know, we can build the welfare building, I think is what it's called. I think it's the welfare building, right? To increase the well-being of citizens when you can't increase all of these things like their city services and stuff. Taking care of garbage piling up and planning residential areas to avoid air, ground, and noise pollution builds on that foundation, while good city service coverage provides a passive boost to citizen well-being. Furthermore, you want to ensure your citizens feel safe, as living in areas with high crime probability stresses them out and decreases their overall well-being. Amenities such as functioning postal service and high-speed internet connection are valued by citizens, as along with suitable sized apartments that match their household's needs, or actual homes if they live in low density. Families tend to look for larger homes in low-density housing areas and small apartment buildings, while single and students can still flourish in compact apartments, such as those available in tall residential towers and low residential apartment blocks. The citizens are consumers at heart, and having options to buy and consume goods positively affects their well-being. We have no idea what a senior citizen would want to live in. They have not touched on that at all. I'm sure that a lot of them want to live in maybe like multi-generational homes, but we have to imagine that, like, you know, there will be some citizens, like some seniors that will live alone. What will they try to prioritize? Will they just try to stay wherever they are once they turn a senior, or will they try to move to like an apartment building, like how a lot of older people will move into condos or like retirement homes? Like, will they try to move into like one of those apartments as well? Something to keep in mind as they don't bring it up. So health is the next one. Health is affected by the availability of healthcare in the form of a passive health boost received by living in close proximity to a medical facility and receiving treatment at a medical facilities in case of a sickness or injury from an accident, both of which severely reduce a citizen's health. Living in an area affected by air and ground pollution has a negative impact on the citizen's health. The stronger the pollution is, the more severe the effect. If the city has insufficient sewage treatment, it will cause the sewage backup and decreasing the citizen's health, while garbage piling up affects the citizen's well-being. It also affects their health, so providing the city with adequate waste management is important for the quality life of the citizen. So, these all sound pretty like, yeah, that makes sense, yeah. Citizens can become sick, even if they are not directly affected by any of the aforementioned causes. The probability of becoming sick depends on the health of the citizen. Higher health reduces the risk of getting sick with a cold. However, when a citizen does become sick, their health decreases greatly. Sick citizens travel to the nearest medical facility to get treatment for their sickness, but their condition is too poor to travel by themselves, and an ambulance will be sent to pick them up. Makes sense. Totally makes sense. Citizens also require medical treatment if they get injured in traffic accidents. In that case, an ambulance is sent to the site of the traffic accident to pick up the injured and bring them to the medical facility. After the sickness or injury has been treated, the citizen's health starts to improve. However, while sick or injured, the citizen has a chance of dying. So the entire time they have that sick thing, there's like basically like a Dungeons and Dragons dice roll constantly going on in the background. And if you roll too low of a number, that character is going to die, is essentially how that's going to work. So the probability of relatively low in general, but is related to the citizen's current health level. The lower the health, the higher the risk of dying as a result of their condition. So it's very beneficial for you to take care of your citizens. Age groups. Citizens age through 4 different life stages. We know this. They talked about this pretty extensively in a different dev diary, which you guys can obviously find a link to in my playlist above, which I'll put in the annotations on the which side of the screen am I looking on? That side of the screen. Go check out the playlist if you guys haven't looked at any of my other dev diaries. You will find children, teens, adults, and seniors in your city, and families, which we know. Preferences. Each age group from teens to seniors has a preference for how to travel in the city and what types of goods interest them when shopping for a household. We learned about all of that in another dev diary, so for time's sake, we're going to skip over that. However, we're going to talk about this. Similarly, age groups also have preferences when it comes to shopping for their household, which we kind of touched on in another dev diary, but I just want to read through this paragraph. Many available goods are relatively evenly bought by all types of households, but goods such as electronics are more likely to be bought by households with teens than households with seniors. On the other hand, seniors are more likely to consume financial goods compared to households with children or teens. So, we know about some of those resource preferences, but it would be really cool to eventually find out which ones are definitely prioritized by different groups down the road. Citizen Lifepath and Chirper. You can keep an eye on these events through the Lifepath journey by following a citizen, right? Which we looked at in the video. This is done by selecting a citizen and clicking the follow button, which I pointed out, adding them to the list of followed citizens on the right side of the screen below Chirper. The Lifepath journal, which we looked at records everything from the added citizens from the moment they are followed. The journal entry lists their name, home address, current occupation, happiness, and other information, as well as their Chirper feed, where they'll tell the whole world what's going on in their daily lives. So we'll be able to like spot everything that they're talking about. We'll be able to see when we click on our followed citizens. We can basically like, you know, make this is my buddy. I want to know everything that goes on in their life, and you can click on it and you can just follow them like the Truman Show, basically, right? And yes, you got that right. Chirper, the lovable bird from City Skylines, makes its glorious return in City Skylines 2. Its functionality has been expanded and integrated more into the core gameplay as the citizens voice their happiness and frustration about various things happening in their city. I love that it's a lot more useful now. You know, Chirper was one of those things where it was like, okay, I have this icon on the top of my screen. It's kind of annoying. It pops up way too often. It's repeating the same thing I know that's wrong with my city over and over. Now we can use it to like kind of track citizens, and I'll have a lot more fun and get more in depth with what's actually going on in our city, which I really like. The chirps are related to actual events, and looking at the likes, you can see just how important the subject matter is for the chirp in the center, which is what I was talking about earlier. When you look at that number next to the like button, you can see how important it is to your citizens. Next, we have the citizens also chirp about events in their own lives, such as moving in together, which we saw. That was like the first chirp we saw with another person, or breaking up, finding a new job, and so on. And as mentioned, they integrate in the Citizen's Lifepath, giving you the overview of the followed citizen's life. So you can see when people are moving in together, you can see when somebody gets married, divorced, all that stuff, which is super cool. That it helps you tell the story of your city by like telling the story of the individual citizens that are shaping it. Education. There are 5 levels of education in City Skylines 2. This was covered in another dev diary, but just to reiterate, we have uneducated, poorly educated, educated, well-educated, and highly educated. Children are uneducated until they finish elementary school, which increases their education level to poorly educated. Children will always go to school if possible, so make sure to provide enough capacity for your city's children. We learned about this all kind of in another dev diary, but I really want to reiterate it for like one specific point. Only teens can go to high school where they can increase their education level to educated. This is what I kind of want to focus on, but we'll read the rest of this. Both teens and adults can go to college, while adults can attend university availability in your city. College graduation rewards citizens with well-educated status, and successfully finishing university studies grants them highly educated level. And some citizens prefer working instead of school, and even the potential future income would be better in the long run. They will still go to work instead of studying. So there's always citizens that are going to be hard-coded to like just not want to be in school, and they just want to go work a nice blue collar job, right? And then there's some that like are hard coded, like no matter what, I don't care if it's more cost effective or not, I'm going to become a white collar worker, and I want to go to the highest level of education possible, right? So those are, some citizens are always going to be coded to that, but typically they're going to want to pick whatever one is financially going to provide them the most amount of money for the rest of their life, right? And that's the one they'll go to. Now, that being said, when we looked at the poorly educated, children will always go to school, elementary school, for the education of poorly educated. If possible, they will always go to school. But only teens can go to high school. So and we know that citizens can fail. They can fail to graduate. So if they just constantly fail high school and then they become an adult, are they just screwed at that point? Like they can no longer increase their education level, even if they're hard-coded to do so, because only teens can go to high school. So if you're poorly educated, can you skip high school and go to college? Because we know that teens can finish high school and college as teens. But does that, like, this is the question I'm asking, right? Is that, can adults somehow still get educated if they're poorly educated? Or can they just go straight to college if it's financially viable for them? Something I'm very curious about. I'd love to know if it was brought up in another dev diary. So if you guys know, let me know down in the comments. Also, just let me know down in the comments how you guys are liking this like dev diary. I think this one's like definitely got my hype back up again. Employment, and this is specifically talking about workplaces in this highlight. They are divided up into complexity levels, which reflects the citizen's education level. So your workplaces and then the jobs, much like how in City Skylines 1 we had like the different tiers. When you click on a building, you can see how many like uneducated, educated, right? So that's actually broken down into complexity levels based on those education. So the higher educated jobs are more complex. City service workplaces remain the same throughout the building's existence. So they don't have those complexity. They have complexity levels, but the city services complexity levels don't change over time. Whereas when a building that you zone levels up, that complexity level will go up. So something to keep in mind. But what I wanted to highlight this, they are divided into complexity levels, which reflects citizen education levels, is that they're measuring that based on complexity now, not on education. And that complexity it translates directly kind of to efficiency, and they're going to talk about that in a little bit on how that applies to efficiency, because I think it's super important that we kind of talk about the complexity level. So we have zoned companies can also change the number of employees needed. This is kind of a refresher on that, if you guys didn't remember that from earlier dev diaries. If the company detects that they are doing well, they can expand their workforce. If, on the other hand, they are doing poorly, they can shrink that workforce and save on wage costs to remain profitable and survive. Between the different company types, industrial manufacturing companies tend to have lower education requirements for employees, regardless of building level, while the commercial and office companies' levels of commercial complexity shifts more towards higher education employees as they level up. So that's something super important to know as we look at citizens' education and whether or not you want a lot of your citizens educated or not, because of how that affects businesses in your city. Now, work efficiency is also really important in this. Higher educated employees are also more efficient in their work, and thus they have much more significant influence on their company's efficiency as well as its production output. When a company is missing employees, the higher education level impacts the efficiency and output more. This last paragraph explains it really well. If an employee gets sick or injured and they cannot work, it means the company will lose some of its efficiency. Once the employee has gotten well, they will return to work and continue companies the employee's efficiency. So if that person is in their higher tier of complexity, that's going to more severely impact the company's efficiency than it will if they are just a poorly educated employee. Employees are able to do any job at their education level or lower. Remember, they said this in previous dev diaries that a citizen, if they're poorly educated, they cannot do a educated job or a highly educated job. They can only do poorly educated, they can't do educated either. So they can only do poorly educated or uneducated jobs. And then right here, it says, even if a higher educated employee fills a lower level job, their effect on the company's efficiency is calculated with the job's level, not on their individual education level. So that's also really important to keep in mind, is that it's only based on the education level that's being worked, not on the education level of the employee. So it's only based on the job position, not on the employee's education. Citizen happiness also affects the company's efficiency and thus its production and profitability as well. So let's move on to criminal behavior. This is a huge new kind of mechanic in City Skylines 2, where in City Skylines 1 it was very not in depth, I guess. It was just very minimal. It was kind of there, barely expanded on with prisons, right? Now we actually have a full criminal behavior, and since it's all pretty much new, I have it all highlighted. So let's dive into it. The probability, so citizens can become criminals. The probability of this is relatively low, but the chance is increased if the citizen's well-being is low. So the lower their well-being is, the higher their chance is to become a criminal. When this happens, a citizen will commit a crime and to earn income by first selecting the target of their criminal activity. The target is a building where a robbery takes place and is selected by comparing buildings in the city and their crime probability values. So there's not going to be just random muggings on the street, sadly. I thought that would be really cool. But it is actually where they target a specific building and then they go commit crime at specific building. The final choice is a random pick from a group of buildings with the highest crime probability values. The citizens living in the building targeted by the criminal will suffer temporary loss of well-being. Now, I thought it was going to be a business, right? They were going to go rob a bank or something, but it looks like they rob from residential buildings from what they are describing here. The criminal will travel to the building, commit the crime there, which takes some time, and then leave. When the crime takes place, an alarm is triggered and alerts the police station. But there is a small delay before the patrol car is sent to the crime scene. If the patrol car reaches the location before the criminal leaves, the criminal is arrested. If the criminal leaves before the police arrive, they escape the law and are free to continue their criminal deeds another day. It kind of reminds me of being a criminal in doing the criminal path in The Sims. In a way, where just that last phrase, I don't know why, it just made me think of being a criminal in The Sims. When a criminal is arrested, the police take them to jail located at the police station and the police headquarters. There's a portion of arrested criminals. Are sentenced to serve time in prison, either in the city if a prison is available, or at one of the outside connections if one is not available. So it is very important that you build prisons in City Skylines 1 because it's going to be another, or City Skylines 2, because it is going to be another exported resource, unlike in City Skylines 1, where prisons weren't as necessary because it was part of the After Dark DLC, right? So citizens who are not sentenced to prison are released, and their criminal status is reset, just like criminals who have served their time in prison. So essentially, you serve time in prison, you get released, doesn't matter, your criminal status is reset. So in City Skylines 1, the way the After Dark DLC worked with the prisons was that when you arrested a citizen and they went to the regular jail at your police station and you re-released them, they still had a relatively high odd to commit the crime again that they had committed. If you sent them to prison, they would become reformed, and that status would reset on that sim. However, in City Skylines 2, it just kind of seems like no matter what, if they get released, their status is reset. Once they release, they rejoin society as a regular citizen, and then depending on the age, citizens can die of old age while serving their prison sentence. So you can die in prison. Leisure and tourists. So not all options are created equal, which means it takes a different amount of time to gain leisure in different places for your citizens, because your citizens need leisure. Citizens who choose a location based on the amount and how quickly they can get that leisure while staying there, as well as comparing the pathfinding costs to different locations. So it's all about pathfinding, which we learned about in previous dev diaries. So I just wanted to re-highlight that again. It's not really like that important or new or anything like that. It's just all based on pathfinding costs and time. It's just efficiency, basically. A lot of this is based on efficiency. So tourist and city attractiveness. Tourist citizens can visit the city briefly. They stay in local hotel while in the city and make choices daily whether to visit one of the city's attraction and commercial areas or stay at the hotel. So I'm assuming hotels are commercial buildings. I think we've clipped on them before, and then they go and they stay at that commercial building. The city's attractiveness value determines how many tourists are drawn to the city, and this value can be increased by building parks and various other attractions such as landmarks. So the more you build, the higher that attractiveness value, the more tourists you get. Just kind of seems like a background process that's going to be running in your game. Leisure types. So city recreation includes indoor and outdoor recreation possibilities in the form of tourist attractions and landmarks, parks, plazas, various sports venues such as tennis courts, soccer field, community pools, basically all the stuff that you think of when you think of a city attraction. It's all like kind of built stuff, right? Then there is commercial recreation, which includes commercial zones where tourists can go shopping and spend time at the mall and all kinds of cozy boutiques. So commercial recreation is all based on shopping. City recreation is all based on going to places like parks, venues, for example. But then citizens can also gain leisure from entertainment, visiting local bars or eating fancy meals at local restaurants. These leisure locations differ from others in that citizens and tourists pay for the leisure gain as they buy beverages and meals while at the location, combining their needs for goods with their need for leisure. So these entertainment venues are very good because they provide a dual purpose for your citizens as well, which is very good. And leisure is mostly, I believe, for your actual citizens, but your tourists obviously will go to things like parks as well and benefit from those opportunities because they also want to gain that leisure. Your citizens can also decide to travel to one of the outside connections for leisure, essentially becoming a tourist in another city. The whole household hops into a car or one of the public transport options and leaves the city for a few days. So you are benefited by keeping your citizens in your city and not allowing them to tour outside the city by making sure that they have the ability to become get their leisure basically from in the city. So citizen conditions. So citizens have conditions like sickness, right? We've seen that in the actual citizen icons up at the top next to happiness. So they can have a bunch of conditions, right? Like homelessness is one of them. And below are an overview of the different conditions and your citizens can be affected with. So conditions, here they all are. Let's read them. Sick citizens cannot work. As long as they remain sick, they are in increased danger of dying. Medical treatment is required to recover from the sick condition. Injured citizens cannot work. So like car crash. These are car crash victims, essentially. Citizens can become injured when involved in a traffic accident, building fire, and collapse and natural disaster. Medical treatment is required to recover from the injured condition. Homeless. Citizens who cannot pay the rent where they live with no means to move into another home or out of the city become homeless. They have no permanent residence and end up living in the various city parks. Unwell. Citizens who are unwell have a low well-being value. Their happiness value decreases and their contribution to work is also negatively affected. Additionally, they are at risk of becoming criminals if their well-being does not increase. Weak. Citizens who are weak have a low health value. This decreases their happiness and negatively affects their contribution to work. Citizens with low health value are at a higher risk of becoming sick. And when the weak citizens become sick, their health value decreases to very low, putting them at an increased risk of dying if they don't get medical treatment. So basically, unwell is, well, I don't know if unwell is a precursor, but weak is kind of a precursor to being sick. So you get weak, then sick is the more severe version. Distressed. Citizens who are in danger or trapped are distressed. Citizens are in danger when they are in a building burning, while trapped citizens are involved in building collapses and are buried under the rubble. Sometimes citizens who are burning building can become trapped, unable to escape. Not good. And then evacuated. Evacuated citizens are in an emergency shelter. Citizens can travel to an emergency shelter by themselves, or they can be picked up by an evacuation bus, which transports them to the emergency shelter. And as we know from previously, the disasters can be turned off, so you don't need to have the evacuated you might never see in your cities, but the emergency bus routes are automatic, so you don't have to do those in City Skylines 2. And that's kind of the end of this dev diary. Next week, we'll be back with another development diary to take a look at different aspects of the game as we look at the behind the scenes of sound and music in City Skylines 2. And then the week after that is kind of the cinematic camera, so this is kind of like the last big game-changing information chuck full dev diary. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, and let me know who you guys are excited to watch on the 8th. I actually suggest that if I don't get access by the 8th, I would actually suggest you guys watch Canadian Moose Plays, who I will leave a link to his YouTube channel down below, as I think he's making a video on it instead of doing a Twitch live stream. He might still also do a Twitch live stream, but I suggest you guys watch him on the 8th because I'm sure he'll have tons of good information for you guys to kind of look at in City Skylines 2. So I want to thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed these dev diaries. I'm sure I will probably see most of you back next week for the music and sound, but if that's not what interests you, make sure you stay subscribed and turn on notifications to the channel, because I will be obviously posting tons new updates. And Thursday, we got the Dev Insight, and this upcoming weekend, I plan on doing a breakdown of day 2 of the Cities in the Sky event, where we got to see even more awesome gameplay from City Skylines 2. Day 2 had a lot more simulation players, so I expect that one to kind of be a little bit more, chuck full of information and goodies for us to find. So again, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Deuces.